What I'm about to reveal will likely go against everything you've been told about real estate. Once people cross 50, I've noticed that the wealthiest among them, those with fortunes in the tens of millions, often take a completely different approach than what financial advisors usually preach. While most folks hustle to pay off their mortgages before retirement, these millionaires are doing the opposite. They're renting by choice. Think about it. You've probably been told the same story your entire life. Buy a home, pay it off, and ride into retirement stress-free. But here's the surprising reality. Many of the richest people I know, with $10 million, $20 million, even $50 million in net worth, are intentionally renting their homes in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s. Not because they can't buy, they absolutely can, but because they understand something about wealth, flexibility, and security that most Americans never figure out. Before you think I'm just exaggerating, let me be clear. I'm not talking about young professionals who can't scrape together a down payment. I'm talking about people with more than enough wealth, $5 million, $10 million or more, who could buy a property outright tomorrow if they wanted, and yet they still choose to rent. I've seen this decision firsthand with clients. They aren't chasing bragging rights anymore. They're chasing freedom, liquidity, and control. And if you're at a stage of life where you're downsizing, planning retirement, or considering a move, it's important to understand their logic. Today, I'll break down the 5 counterintuitive reasons this move could mean the difference between simply retiring and truly living with financial freedom. Reason 1, liquidity becomes everything. After 50, liquidity changes the game. At 30, tying up $500,000 in a house feels okay because you've got decades ahead for that value to grow. But in your 50s and 60s, that same money could be costing you millions in missed opportunities. Let me share a real story. A man I know, we'll call him Robert, was worth around $12 million when he moved from Boston to Austin at 55. Everyone assumed he'd buy a multi-million-dollar home. Instead, he rented a gorgeous place for $8,000 a month and invested the $2 million he would have spent on a purchase into dividend stocks and rates, earning 7%. That portfolio brought in $140,000 a year, about $11,600 a month. After paying rent, he still pocketed $3,600 monthly while keeping his money liquid. If he'd bought, that $2 million would have been tied up in bricks and drywall, generating nothing. Worse, if life forced a quick change, he'd have to deal with the slow grind of selling, agent fees, and taxes. When Robert's father had a medical emergency and needed care in Denver, Robert could act fast, financially and geographically. That's the priceless value of liquidity. It isn't just money, it's the ability to move when life demands it. Reason 2, the flexibility premium. Another thing the wealthy know is the premium value of flexibility. Life after 50 can be unpredictable. Health needs may change. Aging parents might require your presence. Or maybe you simply want to split your year between Florida and Colorado. I had a client, Denise, who was 62 and thought she had her dream home in Denver. Paid off, great views, wonderful neighborhood. Then her daughter had twins in Seattle. Suddenly, she didn't just want to visit on holidays. She wanted to be part of their daily lives. Since Denise was renting, she gave notice and moved within a month. No inspections, no listings, no endless negotiations. If she had owned, she would have been stuck in 6 months of showings and over $40,000 in agent fees. Here's the thing. Interests, family, and lifestyle priorities shift after 50. Maybe you want to spend a year in Italy, test drive different cities, or be close to your grandchildren. Ownership complicates those dreams. Renting makes them possible. I call that the flexibility premium. Millionaires understand that their greatest asset isn't equity, it's options. Reason 3, the hidden explosion of costs. Here's a reality many people overlook. The real cost of owning a home after 50 is far higher than most admit. Property taxes don't stop climbing, insurance doesn't magically freeze, and the big repairs? They cost more as time passes. When you're young, you might patch up a roof yourself or put off renovations. But later in life, you're paying contractors, premium prices at that. One couple I worked with in North Carolina owned a $600,000 home. By their mid-50s, Here's what the numbers look like. $7,200 annually in property taxes, $2,500 in insurance, $5,000 on average for upkeep. Over a decade, they also had to replace a roof and HVAC system for $30,000. On top of that, they had $150,000 of equity tied up that could have earned $90,000 in returns had it been invested. Adding it all together, ownership quietly cost them more than $150,000 in just 10 years, and that's before considering their mortgage. Meanwhile, renting a similar home was $2,800 a month, predictable and hassle-free. No surprise bills, no capital stuck in the house, just peace of mind. For retirees living on fixed incomes, predictability matters more than anything, and that's exactly what renting provides. Reason 4. Simplified estate planning. This one is overlooked but incredibly powerful. Owning property doesn't just give your heirs a home, it gives them a headache. Probate, appraisals, selling decisions, possible conflicts between siblings. I've seen families torn apart because of inherited houses nobody truly wanted, but everyone argued over. One wealthy client of mine worth $20 million sold all of his residential properties by 58. He told me, "I want to leave my kids money, not problems." His estate is now fully liquid in income-producing investments, easy to split, easy to manage, and easy to pass on. Think about it. Would you rather leave behind a $1 million house that needs maintenance, insurance, and selling, or $1 million in investments generating income from day one? Simplicity is a luxury, and for legacy planning, simplicity wins every time. Reason 5, the math of opportunity cost. Here's where the numbers speak for themselves. Imagine you're 52, eyeing an $800,000 house with a $200,000 down payment. What if you rented instead at $4,000 a month and invested that $200,000 plus the monthly savings? Over 13 years, at a 7% return, that nest egg could grow to more than $540,000. That's a $340,000 gain by simply keeping your capital productive instead of parking it in walls and landscaping. Even factoring in rising rent, the math still favors renting and investing. Real estate tends to appreciate around 3 to 4% yearly, but that's before taxes, repairs, and hidden costs. A diversified portfolio historically outpaces that while giving you liquidity and income. Across dozens of client scenarios, I've found renting after 50 often beats owning by $200,000 to $300,000 over just a decade. That's life-changing money. The bigger truth, after 50, buying a home often becomes more of an emotional luxury than a financial investment. And there's nothing wrong with that if you can truly afford it. But if your goal is freedom and financial resilience, renting paired with investing usually wins. For the ultra-wealthy, renting isn't a compromise. It's a deliberate choice. A choice for cash flow instead of trapped equity, for flexibility instead of restrictions, for predictable costs instead of unpredictable bills. They know wealth isn't about what you own, it's about what you control. And liquid invested capital gives you control that homeownership rarely provides in later life. Now, some of you are probably wondering about equity, tax breaks, or stability. But here's the reality. Equity builds slowly after 50 while tying up massive amounts of capital. Tax perks shrink as your bracket lowers in retirement. And stability? Ironically, renting offers more of it. No sudden repair bills, no property tax jumps, and no being stuck in a home that no longer fits your life. I'm not saying everyone should sell their house and rent. If you already own your home outright and it makes you happy, that's a different story. But if you're over 50 and thinking about buying, or if your mortgage is draining your retirement savings, it's worth doing the math honestly. The wealthy have figured out something most people never realize. At this stage of life, it's not about stacking more assets. It's about gaining freedom, protecting flexibility, and keeping financial control. Sometimes the smartest move feels counterintuitive. That's why most people never take it, and why millionaires keep doing it. Because in the end, true wealth isn't ownership. True wealth is control.